Welcome back to Camber Curve. Today, we aren't just looking at a new motor. We're tearing down a massive, heavily funded industry illusion. For over a decade, legacy automakers, politicians, and the mainstream motoring press have pushed a very specific, very convenient narrative. Going electric means going broke. They told us that the green premium, that massive markup you pay for an EV over a petrol equivalent, was an unavoidable law of physics. They convinced us that to save the planet, we absolutely had to rely on ridiculously expensive mining operations in some of the most conflict-ridden parts of the world, just to extract rare earth metals. It was all smoke and mirrors, while Western brands cried about their profit margins, lobbied against emissions regulations, and promised us solid-state battery miracles that are always just 5 years away. Chinese engineering quietly solved the actual equation. The car we're dissecting today ignores lithium, cobalt, and nickel entirely. Its heart beats using something you keep in your kitchen cupboard: salt. The Changan Nevo isn't a concept car wrapped in camouflage. It is a mass-produced reality rolling off assembly lines right now. It is rolling proof that the lithium era was nothing more than an overpriced, temporary stepping stone. And today we're going to expose exactly why your next car will be powered by the sea. To grasp the sheer scale of this disruption, we need to look at basic chemistry and global economics. For the last 20 years, lithium has ruled the automotive roost purely because of its energy density. It is incredibly light and holds a charge brilliantly. But it is a logistical nightmare. They don't call it white gold for nothing. Its price is a volatile roller coaster, entirely dependent on complex mining operations in South America and Australia, followed by incredibly dirty refining processes. When those raw material costs surge, the bill lands squarely on the dealership forecourt. This is exactly why the European market is drowning in $80,000 electric luxury SUVs, but completely starving for decent, affordable family hatchbacks. The profit margins on cheap lithium cars simply don't exist. Sodium-ion tech throws that entire broken business model in the bin. Sodium is absurdly abundant. It is the 6th most common element in the Earth's crust. You can extract it from seawater or soda ash. By swapping out the highly expensive lithium cathode for a sodium-based one, and utilizing hard carbon anodes, Changan has slashed battery pack production costs by nearly 40%. In an industry where the battery pack dictates up to half the total value of the vehicle, this doesn't just make the car a bit cheaper. It absolutely destroys the financial viability of the internal combustion engine. We have officially moved from the era of lithium scarcity to an unstoppable era of sodium abundance. If you live in the UK, Scandinavia, or anywhere that actually gets a proper winter, you are painfully aware of the embarrassing, dirty little secret of traditional EVs. They absolutely despise the cold. Lithium-ion chemistry throws a complete thermal tantrum when temperatures drop toward freezing. The electrolyte liquid inside the cells becomes sluggish. The internal resistance spikes massively, and the chemical reactions grind to a halt. You can literally watch 30 to 40% of your expensive range vanish before your eyes on a cold morning. Let's not even mention the agonizingly slow charging speeds, because the battery management system has to steal power just to warm its own cells up before it can safely accept a charge. It is the primary reason fleet operators have fiercely defended their diesel engines. But the Nevo's sodium battery completely flips the script. Sodium ions are chemically different. They keep moving freely even in bitter freezing conditions. Rigorous, independent testing in northern China proves these cells maintain over 90% of their discharge capacity at -20 degrees Celsius. Let that sink in. While a premium $60,000 Western EV is shivering on the driveway, losing power just keeping its battery warm, this budget salt-powered machine delivers instant punch and full range. For the very first time, winter range anxiety has been entirely eradicated in a mass-market electric car. The old guard of the auto industry used to attack sodium tech viciously. They pointed at its lower energy density and claimed it would only ever be useful for golf buggies and electric scooters. 5 years ago, they might have had a point, but the sheer pace and brutality of Chinese R&D is staggering. Changan's current generation of sodium cells already matches the performance of the lithium iron phosphate batteries from just a couple of years back. They are delivering a real-world range of around 250 miles, which sorts out 95% of everyday human driving needs. But the real masterstroke, the feature that will destroy legacy automakers, happens at the plug. You see, sodium ions are physically larger than lithium ions, and the internal architecture of these new cells yields a significantly lower internal resistance. Why does that matter? Because lower resistance means less heat. Heat is the ultimate enemy of fast charging. Because the battery runs incredibly cool during a charge, it can handle massive currents without frying the internals. We are talking about going from 10 to 80% charge in roughly 15 to 20 minutes on standard public chargers. You no longer need to buy a Porsche Taycan with an incredibly complex, heavy, and expensive 800-volt liquid cooling architecture to get ultra-fast charging. The wait is over. Ultra-fast refueling has just been democratized for the working class. We need to talk about the elephant in the room. Let's face the biggest fear potential EV buyers have: fire. The mainstream media loves a burning EV story because it generates clicks. And the uncomfortable truth is, traditional NMC lithium batteries, that's nickel, manganese, cobalt, are chemically volatile. If they suffer a severe puncture in a crash, or if the delicate separator between the anode and cathode fails, they go into thermal runaway. They begin generating their own oxygen and burn at over 1,000 degrees Celsius. It becomes a firefighter's absolute worst nightmare, requiring thousands of gallons of water to put out. The statistical chance is low, but the fear is real. Sodium chemistry, by contrast, is brilliantly, inherently stable. Changan has put these packs through absolute torture tests that would be illegal to perform on humans. They have driven thick steel nails through them, crushed them in industrial hydraulic presses, and overcharged them to ridiculous yet extreme voltages. The result? Absolutely nothing. No fire, no thermal runaway, no explosions. The battery just quietly dies. From a logistical standpoint, this is a multi-billion-pound win. Sodium batteries can be discharged to absolute 0 volts without taking any chemical damage whatsoever. Try that with a lithium battery, and you've got a useless brick. This means sodium packs can be shipped globally across oceans completely inert, acting like harmless blocks of metal, stripping away the massive costs of fire suppression, transport logistics, and heavy armor plating. Historically, the unwritten rule for building budget cars is brutally simple. Make it cheap, and make sure the customer feels how cheap it is. They punish you for being on a budget. You get scratchy, hard plastics, zero sound deadening, tiny steel wheels, and infotainment tech that looks like a calculator from 1995. It's a miserable experience designed specifically to annoy you into financing a more expensive trim level. Changan has completely ignored this memo with the Nevo because they saved an absolute fortune on the single most expensive component, the battery. They suddenly had a massive engineering budget left over to build a genuinely brilliant car around it. The Nevo isn't an ugly eco-box. It is a sleek, highly aerodynamic fastback saloon. It features flush door handles, razor-sharp LED lighting signatures, and incredibly low wind noise. Step inside, and the cabin is dominated by massive floating screens, ultra-fast processors, and AI voice assistants that actually work. The fit and finish rival German cars from a class above, and it rolls off the production line with Level 2 autonomous driving aids as standard equipment. This is the incredible paradox of this new engineering. Utilizing a radically cheaper power source has actually created a vastly superior, more luxurious vehicle. Western consumers are going to look at their overpriced, bare-bones super minis and violently demand to know why they aren't driving this executive-level saloon for thousands of pounds less. The shockwave generated by this technology is going to completely upend the commercial and fleet markets overnight. Think about the reality of taxi drivers, Uber fleets, and high-mileage delivery couriers. These people don't care about badge prestige. They run their businesses on razor-thin margins. Their profit relies entirely on surviving brutal depreciation, avoiding garage downtime, and slashing their cost per mile to the absolute bone. The cycle life of these sodium cells is frankly ridiculous. Engineered in partnership with battery giants, CATL, these cells can take thousands of charging cycles without noticeable degradation. We are looking at a powertrain that can easily push past the 300,000 or even 400,000 mile mark. Combine a powertrain that essentially lasts forever with the ability to fast charge 3 times a day without the battery suffering heat damage. And you have the ultimate urban workhorse. The Toyota Prius hybrid has had a fantastic run, dominating city streets for 2 decades. But its days are officially numbered. When the fleet maths proves that running a spacious, comfortable saloon on salt costs mere fractions of a penny per mile compared to burning unleaded petrol, the switch isn't just a green option. It is a ruthless financial necessity for survival. There is a massive, high-stakes global chess match happening right now that Western politicians and regulators are far too slow to understand. The global transition to electric vehicles quickly turned into a frantic, bloody scramble for critical lithium reserves. It forced superpowers in Europe and North America to pour billions into controversial domestic mines and heavy tariffs, desperately trying to break their complete reliance on Asian battery processing. By mastering sodium technology, China has simply smiled, turned around, and walked entirely away from that battlefield. Salt is not a rare strategic mineral. You don't need to negotiate trade deals for it. It is absolutely everywhere on the planet. With this brilliant pivot, the Chinese auto industry has completely bulletproofed itself against the insane, unpredictable price swings of global commodities. They can now pump out millions of electric cars a year with rock-bottom ABBs, locked-in production costs. They face zero supply chain bottlenecks and import zero inflation. This gives manufacturers like Changan the sheer financial firepower to violently undercut Western pricing for the next decade, rendering any tariffs, import duties, or trade barriers completely useless. The resource war was won by simply refusing to play the game. I want you to picture the absolute chaos and sheer panic occurring in the boardrooms of traditional legacy automakers right now. Picture the executives at Volkswagen, Ford, Stellantis, and General Motors. They have bet the entire farm and their company's futures on the lithium ecosystem. They have committed tens of billions of pounds building massive gigafactories specifically engineered for lithium chemistry. They have locked themselves into incredibly expensive, decade-long mining contracts. And they mapped out their entire 5-year survival strategies hoping that lithium battery prices would slowly drop. And then, without warning, Changan drops this vehicle onto the market right now. A car that delivers excellent range, blistering charge times, premium tech, and bulletproof safety. At a price point the legacy brands cannot possibly match without taking catastrophic, company-ending financial losses. It is the ultimate innovator's dilemma. If they try to pivot to sodium now, they must admit they are at least 5 years behind on R&D and write off billions in sunk costs. If they stick to lithium for their entry-level cars, they will simply be priced out of existence by superior Chinese tech. The West's grand strategy for affordable EVs has just been turned to scrap metal before it even hit the showrooms. To wrap this comprehensive deep dive up, we have to acknowledge that the Changan Nevo is undoubtedly the most significant automotive milestone we have seen this year. Not because it boasts 1,000 horsepower, and not because it breaks Nürburgring lap records, but because it is finally, brutally honest. This launch delivers exactly what the electric revolution promised from day one, but miserably failed to provide: clean, highly technological, and genuinely viable mobility for the working class, regardless of how cold it is outside or how much money is in the bank. The tired excuses from legacy automakers are over. The tyranny of the overpriced EV has been shattered for good. And we are standing firmly on day one of the sodium age. The engineering isn't a lab experiment anymore. It is ready, it is tested, and it is tearing up the tarmac. For us consumers, it is the absolute victory we have been demanding for a decade. For the slow-moving and stubborn legacy automakers, it is an extinction-level event. The future of motoring is undeniably electric, but the battery that guarantees its survival is seasoned with salt. Thanks for tuning into Camber Curve. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell icon, because the global automotive landscape is being rewritten in real time, and we'll be right here to dissect every single detail.